more problems for Nottingham Forest, of course, we mentioned before, very much flirting with the relegation zone. Frank Leboeuf with us. Frank, I promise I'll come to you in a minute. Stevie, overall, as a Liverpool fan, this just was very lucky, I suppose.
I tell you what, it's getting harder and harder game after game. I'm glad that Arne Slot came out and was honest.
Yeah, he said the first half was the worst he's ever seen from Liverpool.
100%. I mean, it really was. And because of Alisson, Konate and Van Dijk, that's why it was 0-0 at half-time.
And Forest.
Yeah, well, Forest missing that particular chance with Hudson-Odoi, but Alisson's come up with a save, and Konate had his best game of the season, no question. So that three kept Liverpool in the game. I have never in my life seen Liverpool giving the ball away so much. Yes, again, credit Forest putting pressure on, but still, not acceptable. And it could only get better in the second half, and it did. And they did create chances. We saw there Jones could have scored. Ekitike, as Craig said, absolutely should have scored. And they get a little break at the end with McAllister. But the truth is, if you're Forest, how did you lose this game? Yeah. Like Liverpool, thanking the lucky stars. But sometimes you get a bit of luck and you take it when it comes.
I think for
how
Liverpool...
How could they be so bad in that first half, Craig? Like, how do you explain that? They've got something to play for.
I think pretty easy. I think it's pretty easily explained because they've been so mediocre all year that I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised that Gravenberg and McAllister and Salah again. Yeah. The list goes on, and they did defend better today, which has been a big struggle for them all season. But I don't think any performance... I think the surprise performance is when Liverpool put a really good one together.
Aye.
That's where the surprise comes.
That's true, aye.
This season, it's like, where was that?
Yeah.
The unsurprising thing is this, as bad as it was. And I think the lucky side for them is that if they cough that ball up as often as they did today against a side that's not as toothless going forward, which is Forest's big problem. They're a very well organised side. They've got some good players. But in the final third, Chris Wood has been out for a while, who's hardly a superstar. But they're absolutely crying for him to be back because they need somebody to put it in the back of the net. And had they played a team today with a bit of nous and a bit of guile in the final third and a finisher, Liverpool, that game could have been over at half-time. So luckily for them, it wasn't. What surprised me was after the final whistle, I looked at the table and they're still 6 with 3 points.
Yeah.
That tells you how tight it's going to be. In fact, if they missed out in Champions League football next year, I wouldn't be surprised. I would not be surprised.
Yeah, this leaves them level on points with United and Chelsea. Frank, how as a player do you explain that first half when there is so much at stake? They didn't play midweek, did they, Liverpool? They weren't in the Champions League. No. You've had the week to prepare for this game, yet you come into this and you're just so lackluster.
That's unbearable for me in the way that, as you said, they should be prepared for that. And you play against a team fighting for the relegation. You try to get into the Champions League, so you should be, at least if you're not good, you should be dominating, which wasn't the case. What good thing, we've been so critical towards Van Dijk and Konate, and they've been absolutely very good, especially the first half, and Stevie alluded it. It's because of them that it was only 0-0 at half-time. But sometimes life is not fair. When you see how horrendous some players have been, and I'm highly ranked that player that I'm going to mention, McAllister. I think he's a world-class player and he's a World Cup champion. And he showed since he's been at Liverpool that he's a very influential player. But today was the worst game ever that I've seen McAllister on. But he scored the goal and made the 3 points in the pocket to Liverpool. That's for me saying why football is not fair. Because Liverpool never should have gotten the 3 points. A draw, let's say, would have been fair, especially the second half where they readjust some stuff. But really, that was so poor. That was so poor. But Chelsea is the same, play the same way, being poor. We're going to see Manchester United tomorrow, except, let's say, Manchester City and Arsenal, everybody, and a little bit Aston Villa, a little bit less, those teams are not good enough to compete for anything, I would say.
There's no question, Arne Slot is a huge part of the problem this first half. For him to send his team out in the mental state they were in, I mean, I was trying to figure it out watching it. Do they feel sorry for themselves? Are they that low in confidence?
Does Florian Wirtz pulling out make any difference?
No, absolutely not. No, zero, not at all. This to me, yes, the players have to prepare for the kick-off, for the whistle to go and be ready. But the manager and his coaching staff have to smell in the dressing room that something's not quite right.
Okay.
You're not telling me that they were all in the dressing room and there was a lot of energy and everybody's discussing where they should be and what they should be doing, and then you walk out and do that. That's generally a quiet dressing room that starts a game like that. And that's down to the manager to smell it, see it, and do something about it. Because clearly, they weren't ready for the game.
I mean, the Florian... I'd like to know, but...
Stevie...
Go on, Frank.
Stevie, I just want to say something, because you're talking about Arno Slot. How come, and it was a very good decision, he kept McAllister on the field? He was losing so many balls, he wasn't into the game, and he kept him, and lucky for him, McAllister scored the goal. But you would have been the coach. Would you have kept McAllister?
I don't think he had any choices. He already switched Curtis Jones from the middle of the park to right back and moved Szoboszlai from right back into the middle. And then you look at the bench, I don't think he had another choice.
Right.
He didn't have another midfielder on the bench. So, yeah, I agree McAllister in particular wasn't at his best, even though he got the winner, but I don't think Slot had any choices.
Again, the Wirtz thing, but I don't know. I'd like to know, because maybe it all goes into the same pot here. Away from home, Nottingham Forest, fighting. I mean, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But he was feeling his back a little bit, wasn't quite 100%. What do you mean not quite 100%? Were you 80%, 90%? You're right to play? I mean, most players, I believe he went out for the warm-up, right? I believe.
I think so.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's where he got hurt.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, is there a mentality at Liverpool like that, as Stevie said, feeling sorry for themselves, maybe low in confidence, feeling a little niggle, don't want to play, it's going to be a bit of battle today at Forest. Is there a bit of that creeping in? I don't know. Maybe I'm completely wrong about that. But I know from our perspective, if we went out to the warm-up, it'd have to be something that completely goes.
Right.
You'd have to have done your hamstring in the warm-up, or your calf keeps going, you can barely get off the field. If it's a little knock, and you're playing, unless you're thinking long-term, well, you say to the manager, I don't want to miss this Champions League games coming up eventually, they've got a bye at the moment. Maybe there's a little bit of that.
So they're saying basically he was nowhere near 100%, is what Slot's saying after the game. So maybe he was risking him and then he just went, nah.
He was nowhere near 100%.
Yeah.
Anyway, they won the game, but
they did win the game.
I would.
Nobody's at 100%.
I would, when you see things like that, unless it's something absolutely concrete that you can't play. It was a bit like the Real Asensio thing in a Real Madrid game a couple of weeks ago. He said he wasn't fit to play and they had no bodies and he was asked to play. He said, well, if you ask me to play, I can play. Yeah. So it's like, are these players, some of them willing to put themselves in a difficult position for a manager and a team that are in a difficult position? That would be one of the questions, I think, going forward.
A lot more on...
Craig, have you ever played? Craig, have you ever played at 100%?
No.
In your game? That's what it is.
I played a game at Celtic away from home, and I didn't even go out for the warm-up because my back was so...
Poor Florian, he's got backache. Leave him alone.
He's got a little backache. Where did that come from?